UFC 267 will now be co-headlined by the newly announced Petr Yan vs Cory Sandhagen. This matchup was announced recently following the current champ Aljamain Sterling pulling out of the scheduled rematch with Yan due to lingering neck issues. With TJ Dillashaw unavailable due to rehabbing injuries, Sandhagen was more than happy to step in to fight for the interim Bantamweight championship. Let's take a closer look at how these top bantamweights match up in their upcoming bout. First, let's take a look at the tail of the tape. Petr Yan stands at 5 foot 7 inches tall with a reach of 67 inches and a finish rate of 53%. Cory Sandhagen stands at 5 foot 11 inches tall with a reach of 70 inches and a finish rate of 79%. Let's start this breakdown by comparing both men and their stand-up, starting with the former champ. Yan is a master of sport in boxing and a true student of the game. Yan supports a significant strikes landed per minute of 5.99, significant strikes absorbed per minute of 3.55, a striking accuracy of 52%, and a striking defense of 62%. Power, speed, and high striking IQ, a trio of skills that have helped Petr Yan become one of the most terrifying bantamweights in the history of the division. Yan fights out of a switch stance, switching from orthodox to southpaw whenever it is required, even mid-combo. His most lethal punches are his left hook, right cross, and his overhand, all of which he throws while moving his head far off the center line to avoid counters. While doing so, Yan also brings his feet with him, always being careful and maintaining good foot position and balance. Yan likes to soften his opponents up with volume before he lands his power shots, sporting a 4th highest output in bantamweight history. He keeps a constant high guard and he never overextends with his punches or gets greedy. Choosing his shots and biding his time is a huge key to his success, and it was evident during his fight with Sterling, where he would weather the storm and counter when the time was right. One of the key components of Yan's stand-up game is his otherworldly clinch game. When Yan is in the clinch, if he's able to grab an underhook, he will use his other hand to nullify his opponent's free hand. He's always fighting for dominant head position, and if he feels he's losing it, he'll disengage with a spinning elbow. He's also constantly moving his head off the center and feinting with his hands like a true boxer, which isn't something we've always seen in the octagon. Combined with constant forward pressure, Yan is a handful. In just over 3 years in the UFC, Yan is already tied for the most knockdowns landed and the 3rd highest knockdown average in bantamweight history. Now, taking a look at the Sandman, we have one of the most unique and unpredictable strikers in the UFC, which, when combined with his above average height and reach for the division, Sandhagen is a tough puzzle to solve. He sports a significant strikes landed per minute of 6.32 with a striking accuracy of 47% and strikes absorbed per minute of 4.05 and a striking defense of 59%. Sandhagen is also primarily a boxer and he has the 3rd highest significant strike output in bantamweight history, beating out Yan. Sandhagen loves working the body and his body shots have been a staple in many of his finishes, often digging in deep with his left hook. He also fights out of a switch stance, which helps keep him unpredictable and often fights with his hands low by his hips. This lets him throw shots from awkward and low angles, which can be difficult for his opponents to time, but of course, it comes with its own risks. But Sandhagen is tough to hit, employing quick head movement and footwork to stay just out of range and uses plenty of long jabs to keep his opponents at bay. His output can be overwhelming for his opponents, and we saw that in his fight against TJ Dillashaw, where Dillashaw had to rely on clinching to slow the pace down. Although Sandhagen is a great boxer, we can't talk about his striking without touching on his signature flying knees. He's very explosive and throws them out of nowhere at any range. Given his usual height advantage, it makes it even easier for him to land them and adds another layer for his opponents to worry about. And of course, we can't forget the beautiful flying knee to inverted triangle attempt, which goes to show how creative he is inside the octagon. Next, let's take a look at both men and their grappling skills. Petr Yan is a striker through and through. With only one submission to his name, it's pretty evident that this isn't part of his game, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have solid grappling. Yan has a takedown average of 2.14, takedown accuracy of 66%, and takedown defense of 90%. He has been able to thrive on his feet due to his phenomenal wrestling and takedown defense, which is much stronger than you would expect a jiu-jitsu blue belt to have. In his decimation of UFC legend Uriah Faber, Yan showcased some of his more creative takedowns. Once he had Uriah's back, he quickly dropped down to his knee, stuck out one leg, and tripped Faber by pulling him over his outstretched leg, a showcase of the excellent teachings at Tiger Muay Thai. It's the same technique he's implemented from his early UFC fights. In his fight with Aljo, Yan was able to go 7 for 7 with his takedown attempts with a vast array of beautiful takedowns. If Aljo tried to close the distance, Yan would step aside, grab a partial clinch, and quickly trip Aljo. Leg trips from Yan can come from anywhere, and the name of the game is timing. His effortless execution of trips and takedowns showcase years of perfecting not just the technique, but the timing to drop his opponents with ease. His 90% takedown defense was in full view in his fight with the champ when he defended 16 out of 17 attempts. Yan has impeccable timing and he was able to quickly move back or sprawl before Aljo could get any kind of momentum on a takedown. He's only been taken down 4 times in his entire UFC career, and usually it's not for long. He has 1 submission win overall and none in the UFC, so it's probably safe to say that it's not going to be his primary game plan coming into this fight. Moving on to Sandhagen, he has 3 career submission wins with only 1 in the UFC and only 3 submission attempts. As we mentioned earlier, Sandhagen is primarily a striker that doesn't wrestle offensively too often and hasn't landed a takedown in his last 4 fights. That doesn't mean he can't handle himself on the ground though. He has a takedown average of 0.74 with a takedown accuracy of 44% and a submission average of 0.6. The ground isn't where Sandhagen wants the fight to be, and if he gets taken down, he's tough to hold down. He's been taken down every fight except Frankie Edgar, but usually not for long. Instead of wrestling offensively, Sandhagen uses a lot of clinch work, especially with the tie clinch. When he has his opponents clinched against the cage, he'll use his arms to control their posture and land powerful knees to the head and body while mixing in some elbows. When it's time to break, he'll often break it with the elbow or hook. Just like Yan, it's clear that wrestling or grappling isn't going to be Sandhagen's go-to plan and likely won't be during this fight either. Now, how do these two match up? It looks pretty clear that we're going to have another striker's delight of a fight on our hands. Both fighters don't rely on wrestling or grappling for their games, and aside from some opportunistic trip or takedown attempts from Yan, we won't hold our breath for a lot of grappling exchanges. Yan will exemplify technical and perfected striking fundamentals, while Sandhagen will be unorthodox and creative, trying to crack that tight shell. Sandhagen throws a lot of volume, so Yan will have to be careful with his shots and take them when Sandhagen becomes careless or drops his hands, all while being wary of those flying knees and strange angles. Sandhagen, on the other hand, has to be careful of keeping his hands too low and underestimating Yan's hand speed and power, all while staying on the move in the cage. We don't know what will happen at UFC 267, but with the new interim title on the line and both fighters itching for UFC gold, we'll be sure to see a clinic by both competitors. Let us know in the comments below who you think takes this fight. If you haven't joined already, please make sure to join our Discord server. It's a community for MMA fans to talk to other like-minded fans about fights, fighters, upcoming events, and anything of the sort. Link will be in the description below. Thanks for watching our video. If you enjoy our content, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Before we let you go, we wanted to announce that we have launched our very own line of apparel. If you would like to support the channel, or just rep the MMA scene of your country, click the link in the description below.